as a quant researcher, I learned that we needed to pay attention to whether our research is really developed with international student voice. Right? As I said, when we use quant data, we probably do not have a chance to hear those international student voice directly when data came, which is already number. But because of that, when we use the quant data, we have to consider if our research approach is appropriately developed to hear and understand those international students' real voice and experiences behind the data. So yeah, this is a lesson I learned from the research with international student. We have to consider if we really listen, if we really understand those international student voice from those quant numbers data.
Okay, in my experiences, I noted that institutions are unique. Therefore, international students' experiences are peculiar from context to context and from student to students. Also, experiences vary within a given institution compared to when you are comparing institutions. So the results should not be generalized, but rather readers who see resemblances in the findings may judge the significance of the information produced to their setting. I also learned that telephone interviews compared to face-to-face are not limited by geographical space, but they help increase participation, allowing for a more exhaustive sample. Also, the idea for collecting data was based on the students' introspection and recollection. So, particularly for the former, because in my sample I had former students and current students. Therefore, insights to these events might have changed over time. For instance, the issue of language. It can be a challenge when students come in, but as they get used to the setting, the language, they become to be familiar with the language. So those were my experiences.
A lesson learned. So from my first project, because we recruited our participants via email, via campus announcement. So we didn't know those participants before we first met them. So the relationship, there was not really like a relationship with participant, and I think for interviews, these still feel a bit different from those interviews with participant that you already have built some relationship for the research, and therefore for the second project, I'm also thinking about the relationship with international student, with our participant, because if there is like more trust, or that you know someone already, and then during the conversation, for participants, I think the answer, or what they would be open to talk about, probably would be more. And also from the perspective of a researcher, I think that to get a sense of their life, and also to ask a follow-up question, probably would be better. And so that's what I have learned, or what I reflected on the previous project, that what I could change for my next project.
So during my time there, it wasn't only international student parents that I encountered, but also Chinese international students. So during a summer break, I was teaching for 8 weeks on they call it pre-sessional English course. Chinese students who were about to go on to their masters. And right now as well, I am very much involved with international students who are coming from that region of the world to the Philippines. So one of the lessons I learned is that people who can relate with each other in terms of culture, they do tend to flock with each other. And recently I learned the lesson that, you have to be thinking about, why are these people not joining the people who they're supposed to be mingling with whenever they're abroad? Because people tend to blame international students for flocking together and not interacting with other people, and thus not contributing to cultural diversity or themselves engaging in other cultures. So recently there's been literature, and it's just now that I realize it. Oh yeah, that makes sense. That it's easier for people to flock together with people who are of the same ethnicity. It's because they get social benefits from that. And not only social benefits, but real benefits where they get information, for example, or to advance in something. So it's kind of hard for me now to think about, how do you engage international students in a more genuine way with domestic students. So I think that's a great area of research where we should be thinking more and rethinking, actually. So that's something like a black hole in my head. How do we deal with that? Do we force people to spend time with each other and share their culture? Or is it something like, is it superficial doing that? Does it even make sense, considering they have a limited time in the host country as well? So things like that, like things I used to blame on international students, like, why would they do this? Like, why wouldn't they engage with the domestic students? Or why wouldn't the domestic students engage with the international students? So I think we got to think about these things in a deeper way, in a deeper level. And yeah, just recently I heard about people here in the Philippines engaging with locals in parties that were not really officially organized by the university. So I'm thinking, yeah, right, the grassroots experiences. You got to think about what's genuine in the way that they interact with the domestic students.
They're very accommodating, probably because I broke that barrier. But once you get their trust, they will be opening up with you with more than what you want out to from what you want from your research. And I guess that warmth, that empathetic feeling, you're really understanding where they are coming from, and they would willingly to help you and also snowball your research participants. That's what happened to me. And when you're asking them, do you have any other friends who have experienced a similar reflection or whatever, you have said to me, yeah, I can provide you a few more friends of mine. And that's where the snowball happened, and then you get more research participants in that way.
So, well, I guess Right now, I only have like 1 month left of my fieldwork. So, like I said, that's almost 11 months of research with international students and across 3 countries. So, I think at this point, I'm really grateful for all these experiences and everyone I met who, shared their stories with me. And I'm very thankful for all these very inspiring students who were willing to spend time with me and engage in conversations. And I think I've learned so much from them, and particularly like listening to their life stories and dreams about the future, I feel has given me a lot more confidence in myself, also in pursuing my academic path and goals in a way. And I've definitely gained a lot personally from all the students. And lately, I feel I've also been saying my students, and I feel quite like, I guess you can tell now, I feel quite emotional about it at this point in my research, because I think spending a few months with them in each country and exploring the individual worlds and perspectives, has been truly enriching, and both academically and personally.
So I think that when we are doing this research with international students, sometimes we might find we inevitably are making some deficit assumptions. But I feel like when we sense that some of our language are deficit, it is important that it's to notice that it's not necessarily a bad thing. So I think why this would happen, firstly, is because that the deficit assumptions are too influential. It's really, so we have been immersed in such previous studies that it kind of get in our way of thinking. And the other is that the positive side of this is that when we are sensing, we are sometimes making them a homogenized group. It's important. It's a good thing. Sometimes a good thing because it's more easier. It's easier for us to unpack the actual problem, the more realistic challenge that they had, and we can use that a bit homogenized finding to provide some solutions or some suggestions into the realistic challenge that they actually have, instead of, just to, when we sense a deficit narrative, then the next thing we do is to avoid it. I think it's important that we sense those assumptions as a good thing and a powerful starting point. I think, this is something I think would inspire researcher that if they're doing a research with international students. This is something I'm thinking. Thank you.